Hello, everyone. We're back finally. It seems like forever. This shirt, this undershirt from work. Got to wear a white T-shirt. Can't have horror stuff on my T-shirts at work because it'll bleed through my dress shirts. Just like the other day, I was wearing my City of the Living Dead T-shirt. It's got Father Thomas hung, but it says Gates of Hell, and they were able to read it. And they're like, "Oh, you can't wear that shirt under your shirt." So I had to go buy these fucking things. These white T-shirts can go straight to hell with Father Thomas. But tonight we're finally back. Sorry about the delay. I want to thank everybody who subscribes to the Horror Syndicate here on YouTube and follows on Facebook. So a couple things. We finally hit 1,500. Thank you. So if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. The next goal is 5,000. Ooh, that's a lot. And we are closing in on 54,000 followers on the Facebook. So, and if you haven't already, please go check out the horrorsyndicate.com. There's a lot of great content, and we do have holiday season content that we'll be putting up throughout the month of December. And don't forget, my phone won't stop today. Don't forget, we've got 4 movies coming up in the next couple weeks. We're not doing a series, we're not doing a franchise, beginning with Seth's favorite horror film of all time. And I'll let him tell you what that is as soon as I bring him in. But I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. And again, I'm going to apologize. Check out the Horror Syndicate group where you can start your own conversations on Facebook. And Seth has been posting stuff in there. Hopefully, if he's listening, he can share the video in the group real quick before we get started with our Phantasm rankings. And Seth's going to do a little review for each movie as we move forward in this episode. And I apologize. I started a new job, just to get a little candid with you. I started a new job about a month ago, excuse me, and it's a sit down job. It's a banking job, and it's making me tired. Like my other job, my original day job, I was at Home Depot, and I was always on my feet. And I actually liked the job, but they changed things. I had to leave. And now I sit all the time, and I'm tired as fuck every day, and I'm tired of it. Today, I told Seth I went outside because there's this field with corn and trees. I went outside and I just looked out there, and I'm like, I don't think I belong inside at a desk. Unfortunately, like it sounds glamorous, like oh, everybody wants a desk job. I don't think I don't think that's for me. So came to that realization today. So anyway, the money's good. I will say that. So anyway, Seth is here. We're going to talk about the 5 Phantasm movies, a 36-year franchise. We've got the first Phantasm, of course, 1979, Phantasm 2 from 1988, 1994's Lord of the Dead, and Oblivion from 1998, and the long-awaited sequel, Ravager, which kind of finishes the entire franchise. So, Seth loves this franchise. I do too. I just haven't had the chance to watch it because it's like come home, make dinner, fall asleep on the goddamn couch. And that's kind of what's happened the last few days. That's why we're here on a Friday instead of a Wednesday. But enough of me bitching and moaning. Here is Seth. Seth, my friend, how are you? I missed you, you old SOB. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've been actually
Yeah.
pretty. I've been pretty sick over the last few days, so I haven't really been posting much to the group, and I haven't really been doing
Sick
much.
or sick
I
of my
didn't even
shit?
watch. Nope, just sick in general. Head cold, and not to mention, I got really angry at my football team last Sunday night, and I just kept drinking and drinking and
Same here.
drinking, and it was I felt it the next day. So
Yeah. Dude, I was watching that game, and I gotta tell you, me and Reynolds. So my son, he's been getting into football, and we're sitting there like after the Bills score in overtime to take the lead. I'm like, okay, if they stop, they win. And I'm like, if this is the way this game ends, this game of the year easily. And then
yeah,
Reynolds is like, is Seth? You think Seth's happy? I'm like, I'm not gonna even message him until this is over. And if they end up losing, I'm not gonna message him at all because I know how angry he's gonna be because I was angry because the Chiefs beat the Raiders. Fuck the Chiefs, and then we're gonna lose a bunch of
Oh, dude,
health.
I mean, I was so angry, like, and again because I was like drinking so much, I was starting to get belligerent. Like I was telling people to go f themselves all over Facebook, and
On my Facebook too.
yeah, yours was one of them. And then there was someone like one of my friends or someone on my friend list.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's and then this one of my friends is a Chiefs fan. I know nobody wants to hear us talk about football. If you're a football fan, let us know your team in the comments. But a good friend of mine's a Chiefs fan, and he puts up this thing on my Facebook, and it's somebody shitting into a Raiders helmet, and I'm like, I got a better one for you, and it was somebody stepping on the Raiders logo and says, I stepped in shit. I don't care.
Yeah,
You can make fun of my team all you want. I don't give a shit. But like, I still want my team to beat the shit out of the Chiefs, especially I want to see anybody beat the Chiefs because I fucking hate them. But anyway, we've got a bunch of comments here from our good friend Sean Sheridan. And I did, like I said, I named this. So we did episodes on Phantasm and Phantasm 2. And this was supposed to be 3, 4, and 5, and then the rankings. But we're going to kind of do a series recap of all 5 movies because really it deserves a video like this. And Seth is more of a passionate fan of the Phantasm movies. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Reggie Bannister is one of my favorite characters in horror. Period. I think he is a notch below Ash as far as heroes in horror. What do you think?
yeah, that's a fair assessment. Below
Yeah,
Ash, because I don't think he's not quite at Ash's level, but he's just maybe a tier below.
yeah,
I think that's fair.
and he's much more of a ladies' man, if you will. I mean, think about it. Well, he
I don't
tries.
know. I mean, Ash actually hooks up.
Ash actually gets a couple of women, where Reggie just keeps trying and keeps failing. So Sean, our old friend from across the pond, has got some comments as we like to do. Read his stuff. Phantasm 3 is Reggie is decent co-lead, not great main lead. I don't like the kid or Reggie's love interest, but the tall man is good, decent. He just keeps getting better and better through the first 4 movies. Angus Grimm, in my opinion. Phantasm 4 is quite good. I like the story arc of exploring the tall man's past. I do too. And trying to turn Mike evil. Yes, because it really made it seem like he was going to be the tall man, take over for the tall man. And the
Yep.
story, then part 2, part 3, budget. One of the things I like about 4, and we'll get to it a little bit, is all the flashback scenes from the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I want to see the ultimate cut of Phantasm, where Don Coscarelli just adds in all the shit that he took out. Because I heard that it was like 3.5, 4 hour movie before they had made all the cuts. Uh, Ravager is just cheap. When the giant balls are in the city, that's the worst part of the movie, I think. Um, Ravager, there's his rankings. No big surprise there.
It's
Mm,
close to mine.
yeah, not yeah. Uh,
Couple.
yeah. Hey, all right, Sean Sheridan, welcome aboard. So hopefully you like the Facebook page too. You Americans and your football. I don't quite get the big deal. Let's talk about British people and their football, or Europeans in football, and I'm talking about soccer, is what Americans call it, because they're crazy over that shit. And shit, even in Mexico, they're crazy over it. So anyway, let's get into the Phantasm discussion, and we're gonna start off with doing a kind of a review of Phantasm. We're not gonna go into our rankings until towards the end of the show, and we've got the really interesting situation where the slash score is end up giving us our actual rankings and our personal rankings, which is kind of fun. Except for mine, I'll explain. And then I've got the Horror Syndicate 5-star ratings, which Sean, I hope you're getting in on those too, because those are quite a good time. But let's start off with Phantasm. Of course, Phantasm, Don Coscarelli, 1979. Angus Scrimm. Who else is in this one?
Uh, uh, Reggie Bannister, a Michael Baldwin, Bill Thornberry, I can't remember
You
the
could have
name
just
of the
stopped
lady
with
that
Reggie
plays
Bannister and I'd have been
the
happy.
Lady in Lavender.
Well, go ahead and give us
Well, I
kind
mean,
of
Reggie's really not much of a
that's true. You're right. He's kind of a side player in this one for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Well, why don't you give
So
us
what do you want me to do? To
a little bit of a review? Well, how about a little synopsis and then a review, if you can, of Phantasm, 1979. Great movie.
yeah, well, I mean, so basically, a young boy named Mike is hanging around with his brother, um, who is raising him, and his brother and his friend Reggie attend a funeral for their friend Tommy, who died in the very beginning. And while at the um, while at the funeral home, Mike sees uh, the owner, basically the tall man, do some pretty impossible stuff, and it just gets weird from there. Again, as I've said many times, Phantasm is very hard to explain, and anyone who says that they get it is full of shit.
Yeah,
Um, as
but
far
it's still a great deal of
as
fun.
my review of it, it is, and as far as my review of it, I think it's a very ambitious, very unique horror film with sci-fi elements. There's not another film like Phantasm out there, at least to my knowledge. Um, I think it's a bizarre movie, and I like what I like about. I guess I'll say this for all of them is that there is a certain uncertainty of what's real and what's not, and there's very few answers. And when they give you answers, they kind of take them back in the following movies. So Phantasm is one of those really weird and fun and unique horror films, and I think it showed great promise from Don Coscarelli, um, and I'm glad that it definitely helped launch his career. And yeah, it's a great film.
I agree. There's a lot to like about Phantasm, the original one. It's there, like you said, there's nothing like it. You won't get it. Nobody will get it,
Yeah,
no matter what you say. But it's a good time,
yeah,
beginning to end. Great score,
yep,
great cast, great movie.
yep.
Um, Sean says Phantasm is a 4 out of 5 for him. Uh, I didn't hate everything. Yes, fantastic. Okay. Um, Actually, I forgot. I did watch Phantasm too, by the way, before the last show. Remember how I said I was going to watch it before the next show? I did, even though I missed it for the Phantasm 2 show.
Oh, cool.
I did get to watch it. So we'll we'll get to it now. Or you want to go into
It's a
Phantasm?
cool.
You ready to talk about Phantasm 2 real fast?
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, here we go. Phantasm 2, no subtitle.
All right.
Seth, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so Phantasm 2, it begins right where the first film leaves off with the tall man and the Jawas coming after Mike and Reggie, and uh, Reggie ends up saving Mike. And then we go to many years later, and Mike has really been struggling with everything. Um, and he's seeking help from a psychologist and who's trying to convince him that everything that happened didn't really happen, but Mike is he plays it smart, just tells him what he wants to hear so he can get out. And Mike sets out to find the tall man. And along the way, he meets up with Reggie, who has for some reason dismissed everything, and until they blow up his house. And then from there it becomes a road movie where uh, Reggie and Mike hit the road trying to find the tall man to fight against him and to stop him. As far as my review of that one goes, it's it's a, Don Coscarelli got studio back in, and he made every dollar count. I mean, it's a good
Mhm.
looking film, great effects. I think the score is even better. Um, there's just a lot of really cool things with it, and it's more. I think it's a little bit more. It's one that's probably the easiest to understand out of all of them. It's a little bit more straightforward in that regard, and and what I really like about it is it's the opposite of the first one, where the first one was where you have these group of characters who are friends who, there's this evil coming for them, and here it's them going after the evil. They're pursuing it this time. So it's bigger. Bigger doesn't always mean better, but it is more fun. And it's got a lot of great action, a lot of great effects, and um, I don't personally, I don't mind the recasting of Mike. Um, Nothing against the original Mike either. I kind of liked the kid in part two. So that's my review of Phantasm 2. I think it's a really fun movie, and it's more, I like how it's more of a road movie, and we're at the point now where it's the characters fighting back as opposed to kind of not knowing or not understanding and running away from things. It's much more of them pursuing the evil.
Yeah, and rewatching it after the Phantasm 2 show, I gave it ended up giving it a higher score than Phantasm after I've all Phantasm's better. In some ways, I think Phantasm 79 is better, but Phantasm 2 overall is much more polished. The score is better. You do get a better actor in whatever his name is, the new Mike. And I think it actually helps Reggie's performance a little bit because Reg is not the greatest of actors, even though we love him. But I do think it helps his performance a little bit in this movie. Plus, you've got some great set pieces in this movie. And because in the first movie, to compare the two, if I can for a second, the first movie, it's kind of like three locations, maybe four, and this one being kind of a road movie, and even in the opening you get some really nice set pieces, some really cool scenes and memorable characters. There is some stuff and it's a Phantasm movie, there's still some stuff that's like, huh, but at the same time it's a lot of fun. You get the upgraded quad barrel shotgun, which is awesome. As Sean mentioned, you get a chainsaw, Reg with a chainsaw, why not at this point? It's a studio movie, but this is, we talked about it in our chat about how Disney thinks they need to be more involved because of the failure of the Marvels. We get this is an actual you know, follow up to Phantasm that is a studio movie that was kind of done the right way in many ways. It's good. It's really it's probably borderline to better than the original movie. But I think the reason why it could be better is because it is more polished. The studio with more money and all that stuff helped. Not the studio itself, but you know what I'm saying, right? Um, Plus, you get more Reg in this movie.
Yeah, well, and you do get more Reg in this movie, and that's the thing is like there's kind of a difference between Phantasm 1 and then the rest of the series because beginning with part 2, I mean, even though there is some comedy elements in part 1, it's much more of a serious movie. There's a lot of serious themes going on, whereas part 2
Mhm.
kind of begins the whole trend of it being a little bit more campier, and you get that with now Reggie as the lead man, as opposed to Jody, who was the lead of part one.
Which I think was smart because Reg is great. and he carries he between him and Angus, they kind of I'm just like Nate. I'm first naming people. I think they carry the franchise moving forward, and I do think, unfortunately, this was probably the peak of Phantasm because it really there are peaks and valleys in this series because I think first one goes up and then slightly goes up again, and then while I like three and we're getting ready to get to three, it does go down in quality, in story, in characters. Also, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a goddamn funhouse in this movie, essentially, like Home Alone. Um, so let's get into Phantasm. This is where we haven't gone to yet, and in the series breakdowns is Phantasm 3. So Seth, take it away.
Yeah, so Phantasm 3 picks up right where the first one leaves off, where the Jawas are trying to get Mike, and uh, Reggie saves him. And then eventually Jody shows back up, and Mike kind of goes on a separate journey and from Reg. And in the meantime, Reg, uh, uh, he meets a little boy. I forgot what the character's name was. It's been a while since I watched it, but uh, he's almost like a Mike replacement in a way.
Yeah,
And
and he's back to the
he's
age
like,
Mike was in the first movie, basically.
yeah, and this kid, he's like a combination of like Kevin McAllister and John Kramer. He like
Yeah.
he's like sort of like in
Oh
that
yeah,
mold. That
yeah.
he's that hybrid of them.
That's
And
funny.
along the way, Reggie also meets up with Rocky, who is
Hmm.
also kind of hunting down the tall man with her. What was her sister? Who
Yeah.
gets killed? Um,
Yeah, that's the funny thing
yeah,
about it. Like that happens immediately. It's like
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
they were gonna be like both when I first saw it. I was like, okay, cool, two new characters. Nope, it's just one.
yeah, yeah. And then so eventually, Reggie and his new friends hit the road trying to go find Mike and to to help save him. And they get pursued by these three goons throughout. And I'll just get into my review part now. So I like this movie. You know, like I don't hate any of the Phantasm movies. I do like Part Three. However, I think Part Three is the one that steps a little too far into the campy comedy side of it. I think there's
Hmm.
some good, you know, there's good serious moments in it, but it's especially when you have those three, what do you call them? Those drifter punks or whatever that are always after Reggie, and they eventually become ghouls. Um, I think it was just a little too much for it. Now I do like, you know, I do like certain things of it. I think the funhouse scene was really cool. It was good seeing Bill Thornberry come back as Jody,
Hmm.
even though it's not quite clear um, if it's actually Jody or if it's just a trick. And I think there's a really good moment towards the end where Mike goes to leave the building that they're in, and Reggie's coming after him, and Mike turns around and like his eyes are like the spheres, and
Hmm.
he tells him to not follow him. I think that was actually a really good way to end the movie. So Phantasm 3 overall is I think it's a watchable film. It's fun, but I think it does step a little too far into that campy side. So
Yeah, and I can agree with that. Yeah, the kid is kind of annoying. I like three for some reason, and it might be the campiness that I kind of enjoy. Because the first two movies were kind of different in tone, and then you got the third movie, which is they like went further into the they tried to go further into the camp and it just didn't work very well. And I agree with that. Even though for some reason there's something about the third one that I like. I've never been able to
It's
quite
fun.
pin in my yeah, it's fun. Right, exactly. I mean, that's what you want out of a movie. It's not great. It's not, it's not masterpiece theater or anything like that, but it's a good time. Um, and I remember I watched when I first watched these. I watched them all like in a row, and it was just a couple of years ago. I think I've said that before, and I don't know. The third one kind of stuck out to me because it also strays. It feels like it strays a little bit from the story line, because they go off on their separate ways and such. And I think that might be part of it because the fourth one really kind of, and we're going to get into the fourth one in a second, but the fourth one kind of does a little bit better of a job of sticking to the main like franchise. You know what I'm saying? Like the overall franchise story. I don't know how to explain it. I'm
Well, I
done.
think.
Tired.
Well, is here's the thing. It's like I think three works really well when because it's complemented by four. Because I think
Hmm.
three kind of starts to lay the seeds of the tall man is interested in Mike, and he has a
Hmm.
plan for Mike. And again, we have the whole thing where at the end where Mike's eyes are like the silver spheres, and and then part four just kind of expands upon all that. And of course, when you get to five, it just chops that whole fucking thing almost. But
Yeah.
yeah, like if part three was clearly sort of like the part one of like a two-part story, you know what I mean? How certain franchises do that,
Mhm.
part one and part two thing, you know. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good opinion. You are not wrong on that. But like, no, I don't know. I don't know. I do like it though. Like, I just there's something about it that I can't explain why I did like it the first time. Because my brother-in-law watched him the same night I did. And we discussed him the night after, and he was just really kind of laid into the third one. He was like, but the fourth one they came back and to form, and we'll talk about that in a minute because the fourth one. I just want to remind everybody that next week we are talking about a single movie, An American Werewolf in London is our topic, and I know Seth's probably foaming at the mouth like a werewolf. So be ready for
That's
that for
right.
next week. But first, let's talk about Oblivion, Phantasm 4 Oblivion. Underrated, in my opinion. There's a lot of great stuff in this one. I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away because you're the man, and that's the problem.
Well, I mean, I agree about Oblivion because I've always been a big fan of this one. Now, first and foremost, I think it was very, very smart of Don Coscarelli to make another Phantasm film,
Hmm.
but with a very reasonable budget because of the fact that he could take pieces of what he did not use in the original and then form a sort of a narrative sort of around that. And
Hmm.
I think that was smart because I mean Phantasm 2 I don't think did very well, so Universal wasn't involved with part 3, and I'd imagine probably the success naturally as all franchises go. I'd imagine, the residuals, the returns are probably lower each one. So, for him to make a 90-minute movie and use a lot of old footage because and I think the old footage stuff helps too because
Hmm.
it's clearly it's stuff that was shot for the original, but it almost kind of makes you feel like the it's hard. I'm struggling to explain this. It's like certain movies like they'll do like a flashback scene and it just doesn't feel as genuine, but because this is actual footage from you know uh, however many years prior, 20 years prior. Um, it just feels genuine. It feels like these are genuine memories that they're having, and it's all new stuff that we haven't seen before, but it's them from back in the day. Um, so there's that, and then it's I think it kind of corrects the course. Like there's still a couple like really corny things in it, but it's not quite at the level as part three. You have the whole thing with the chick, and and then there's the cop that looks like Freddy from New Nightmare, and
Yeah.
but what I really love about this though is the fact that Reggie and Mike are separated the entire movie. This picks up right where the third film left off. So Mike is on his own journey now,
Hmm.
uh, trying to figure out what the tall man wants from him. He doesn't want Reggie to fall him. He doesn't want Reggie to be in danger, but Reggie is kind of already in. He's already in it. He's already in the shit, pretty much, and and he can't really abandon his friend. So eventually, he does go to try to track down Mike. But there's a lot of great stuff in this one. What I absolutely
Hmm.
love is we get to see Angus play a different version of the tall man, where we get to see him as a human being who's like kind of
He gets
kind
to
and
act more,
nice,
really.
as Jediah Morning.
Yeah.
What's that?
He gets to act more rather than the tall man barely says anything.
Yeah, well, he plays the tall man a certain way, and so like when we get to see him play Jediah Morningside, and it's like the polar opposite. It's like really refreshing to see,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I just really love that whole sequence. So like where Jody um, takes Mike back and shows him the origin of everything and how it happened, and just like the score is amazing in this moment as it shows Jediah starting up his machine and then going through and then coming back as the tall man that we know. I think that's really great stuff. And then
Yeah.
I think there's some clear indicators here that it almost seemed like they were setting up for Mike to be like a replacement tall man or something, because there's I think Mike has a dream where he's like wearing
Hmm.
a suit, and then I mean just even like there's like a like a profile shot of Mike when he's driving the hearse, and so it's from his like side, and just the way his face is shaped, it's like it almost kind of reminds me of Angus, with the
Yeah,
mouth
you
and
totally
everything.
get that feeling. I
Uh,
agree with you.
yeah, and then it ends on a really cool note too. I mean, I think
Hmm.
you know, it's a little corny, Reggie dressing up in his ice cream uniform, but I kind of like him kind of suiting up and going into the desert, and then like just that whole kind of
Hmm.
thing with him and the Jawas and the tall man. I thought that was really fun, and then and it ended on that note with the sphere coming out of Mike's head, which I do kind of have a theory, but we'll get to that later. But
Okay.
the sphere coming out of Mike's head, and he's laying on the ground, practically dying, and then Reggie decides to go through a portal with the promise of I'm gonna save you. And it's funny because from like what 1998 to what was it 2015 or 16 when they were like surprised we did part five. Like
Yeah.
part four was like the end, and part four is one of those movies where it ends. I was like, I need another one. I need a direct
Yeah.
continuation of this.
There needs
But
to be
then
a
like
payoff.
yeah, but up until I got to a certain point though where I was just like I started accepting where Oblivion was the last one. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
that's kind of a interesting way to end it, I guess. Um, but yeah, I absolutely I love Phantasm 4 quite a bit. What do
Yeah.
you think?
It's one that I liked originally, and I think the more I get the opportunity to watch it, the more I'll end up liking it. Because like you said, I think
Yeah,
we're lucky. in a way that Coscarelli shot so much, you know, uh,
Hmm.
because we got all of from the first film. I mean, because we got all those inserts, which were brilliant in my opinion, and then of course the Morningside stuff with Angus getting a chance. Angus, I'm first naming him again, getting the chance to actually act, and you like him, genuinely like him. Well, I did.
Yeah.
It's a great scene, really well executed. It's one of it's to me it's one of my favorite parts of the entire franchise. Um,
Oh
that
yeah.
whole
Yeah.
sequence. But yeah, do you want to wait till after we're done with the Ravager to do your theory, or you want to
No,
get
I
on with
can. I can.
Ravager real fast?
No, because I mean, Ravager could just kind of. Well, we'll get into Ravager when we do Ravager, but my theory is this though: is that they were in a way prepping Mike to be like a new tall man type figure, and
Mm-hmm.
so my theory is that it has to deal with the orb inside his head, and that
Mm.
possibly when Jediah Morningside crossed over to that other dimension or whatever the other planet is a planet dimension. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
nobody
like
knows. Don Coscarelli doesn't know.
they they put an orb in his they put an orb in his head, and that's how the tall man was created. It was created in the image of Jediah Morningside
Mm.
without it being Jediah Morningside. So it's because of the orb being in his head and just kind of taking everything. I don't know. That's just kind of my theory is that when the orb leaves Mike's head, is gets brought over like I almost kind of feel, and I could be wrong. I mean, I have no association with Costarelli, and I don't know what his mindset was, but like it just almost felt like a new tall man was gonna be made.
Mm. So, do you want to move on to Ravager? Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. My computer started slowing down
Yeah,
really bad, so I don't know
I
if it
froze
was
up.
that was it you or was it me? Because my computer started slowing down really bad just a second ago. Anyway, let's go on. Let's move on to Ravager. It came out. I think you're right. 2015. So it was a long wait for this movie, and not quite the payoff we wanted from the end of four. Uh, give us your little synopsis and review of Ravager.
um, yeah, this is a difficult one because it doesn't really pick up where the last film ended. We start by following Reggie, and Reggie is in a desperate search for Mike, and as he's trying to find him, he uh, he starts to get glimpses of himself in a like a nursing home,
Mm-hmm.
and where he's met by Mike and even Jody there, and it's believed that he has dementia. So there's this whole idea of was this whole Phantasm franchise just a figment of Reggie's dementia? Um, yeah, I guess that's the best way I could explain or summarize it. Is just Reggie's searching for Mike, and it's much more. Is this is a very Reggie focused movie. where
Hmm.
Mike doesn't really even matter in this. Like he doesn't, he's in it like here and there for the nursing home scenes, but we don't meet the real him, so to speak, until like just just before the film ends, pretty much. Within 20 minutes before the film ends. Um, yeah, so I mean, this was a movie that was shot in secret. Apparently, it was supposed to be they were just gonna be doing it like as a web series, so they shot a bunch of stuff just to put out, like little 5-10 minute scenes here and there. But then they decided to just kind of pull it together and make it a hour and a half narrative, and it was cool, like how they did it, like the fact that they shot the whole thing in secret. There was no like rumors on like bloody disgust or anything about a Phantasm 5. Like
Hmm.
at this point, there was for a long time, but eventually the Phantasm 5 thing just kind of fizzled out. So they shot it in secret. And then just one random day, I go on social media and then it's like, oh, surprise, we shot Phantasm 5. Here's the trailer, which was, I think, is really cool. And
It
I
is.
wish
You
more
don't get that anymore. Surprised by a movie, you know.
you don't get that at all. Yeah. And so that was really cool. The There's several problems with it, but there's also some stuff I do like about it. I do kind of like the whole dementia thing, and
Yeah.
I think it was cool visually, and I think it gave Reggie Bannister a little something to work with. I thought his acting was actually probably the best he's done in the series. As far as like kind of playing it serious, and like even when the ending happens, I think the ending it did hit me a little bit because of the way it ends. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but it I don't know, like it's a film that could have been better than what it was, and I think that if Coscarelli himself directed it,
Hmm.
I think it would have been a much better, not just a much better looking film, a much better put together film. I think there's some shots in it that are weird. Like there's like this really weird shot of Reggie driving with the camera sort of like on the hood, and you're kind of like looking in at Reggie who's
Hmm.
behind the wheel, but like with the angle of the camera and with the height of the steering wheel and the height of Reggie, like it's like the steering wheel's like covering like half of his face. Like it's just weird. It's weirdly shot, and I don't think it has the energy that Coscarelli would kind of um, would have brought to it if he had directed it.
Do you know anything about him being drunk? Did he pull a John Carpenter?
I have no idea. Actually, I got these two books about the Phantasm franchise. One's called Phantasm Exhumed, which is about the first four, and then the other one's called Further Exhumed, which is about uh, Ravager. Because I think when they were making the first book, um, was before there was an announcement for five. Um, but I haven't read them. I have them. I've had them for a while. It's from the same guys that did the Taken Shape books, which is all about the Halloween franchise, like the
Hmm.
ins and outs. They did one about they did Slash of the Titans, which is about the development of Freddy vs. Jason from beginning from conception to when the film came out. Um, so it's informative stuff. I have to actually just kind of pull them out and read them, which I should have done before doing this
That's
series.
so unlike you
Yeah,
to not read something you have. Uh, well, I'm sure you'll get around to it at some
I have
point.
so many books.
To what?
Yeah, so I have so many books.
Yeah. Is your book
Yeah.
collection bigger than your movie collection?
Oh no, no,
Okay,
no, definitely
that's
not.
good to hear. I was worried for a moment.
I love
So,
reading though.
do what?
I said I love reading them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess it's time we can do some rankings. Getting my brakes done tomorrow. I'm trying to get a ride back home because it's supposed to take like 4 or 5 hours for the guy to do it. Otherwise, I got to stay up there in that shop for 4 hours or whatever. Oh,
I'll
anyway,
pick you up, buddy.
thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so, as you know, we always do our rankings with these, and you got a good review of each movie. 5-star rankings for uh, the Horror Syndicate followers are as follows. And this is one of those franchises that sometimes, like, I looked at my old ranking, and I think they were in order. Uh, with Phantasm Ravager being the bottom of the, which it is here. Uh, but I think this is fair. You've got Ravager, Lord of the Dead, the third movie, Phantasm 4, Phantasm 2, and Phantasm. And I will be honest with you, I am surprised that our followers chose Phantasm 2 as the second one. I mean, of course, they don't know what they're choosing because this is an average score of everybody's 4-star rating, whatever, 78%. I think it's fair. I'm gonna do mine first, if you don't mind, this time.
I'll go for it.
Uh, but yeah, so here's mine with my chopped off head. It's not that much different, except for I have Phantasm 2 at number one as 85%. Where my personal, when we normally we do our personal rankings along with our slash scores, my personal rankings, I probably have one and two flip flopped. But I think this is fair also. Oblivion is, in my opinion, without a doubt, the third best movie overall. I do like Lord of the Dead, but it really, it's not great. And Ravager, it's got moments, but overall, it's absolutely the worst one. Um, but there are my rankings: Ravager at number five, Lord of the Dead at four, Oblivion at number three, Phantasm. Because of this, again, when it comes down to the slash score, 85% for Phantasm 2, it's the bigger budget. It really helped it out, I think, because we're talking about our 10 categories and we're talking about all these different things that a studio can help out with and a bigger budget, of course. So, Phantasm 2, it's a good one, though. It's a good one. Now, in my opinion, I really, where Ravager is pretty kind of weak for the most part, it's a good overall series. All five movies are worth watching, in my opinion. I just wish there wasn't so much time between each movie because you've got 9 years between one and two. You got 6 years between two and three. You got 4 years between three and four, and then of course like 17 years between four and five. And if for and I was not one of them, but I know a lot of Phantasm fans had to live with four being the end for that long, and I couldn't imagine. I think that's kind of
Yeah, I
wild.
was one of those people.
Yes, you are. Speaking of, here are your rankings. Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, clearly, Ravager is the worst of them all. Even though I do find some stuff of value in it. Again, I do like the whole dementia subplot, and I thought that was interesting. I think the big thing for me is I just wish that one Don Costa really directed it, and two, I wish it was more of a direct continuation of the story.
Yeah.
Um, because it was like kind of a weird, like sort of like, oh, it was almost. I mean, they did bring back Mike later on in the movie, and he does explain what happened to him after the sphere left his head. He was
Hmm.
left in the desert, but like that happens much later in the movie, and it's not like a major plot point, and it just kind of drops the whole he's important thing. Even though he does get the eye thing does come back at the end.
Hmm.
Um, and some of the effects are kind of weak, especially in the end when they are in the other dimension. Um, But yeah, so Ravager is my least favorite. Um, Number four for me is the third film, Lord of the Dead, which I think is a fun movie. It's a movie I do enjoy watching. It's just one that I feel like they just kind of leaned a little too heavy into the comedy side of it. It was kind of like it almost felt like they were like trying to kind of match Evil Dead in a way. Um,
Mm.
so that's kind of how I feel about that. Number three for me is Phantasm 4 at 80%. I really dig Phantasm 4 a lot. I think it was smart of Coscarelli um, to do it the way he did. To be honest with you, and I think the using all the using all the unused uh, stuff from his original film kind of helped add to the genuine nature of these characters and their memories and their history together. Um, and it does wonders for you know the tall man showing his origin, and I think the score is great. I think it's just a really good movie. Um, this I don't know. This may be controversial, but my number two is the original Phantasm. Love the movie. I think it's great. It's unique. It's as far as being a horror movie, it's probably objectively the best in the series for sure. Um, but I have nothing bad to say about it. It's just the reason why it's number two on my list is because I love Phantasm 2 a lot. Can't quite explain it. I guess it's just more of a fun movie. It's more I kind of like the whole story with the two heroes hitting the road. I like the fact that they stole a bunch of shit from a shop, but at least they paid for it after.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Phantasm 2 is just it's 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 up there as being one of my favorite horror sequels. It's not quite on the level of Hellraiser 2 for me, but it's almost there. So that's my ranking. I love this series. I think it's really good. I mean, even Ravager, I'll watch it. I know there's some fans that are like, nope, doesn't exist, but I'm not one of them. Like I'll watch
Yeah, I
it.
don't like that whole mentality. No matter how much I may not like an entry into a franchise, I'm not gonna sit there and like, oh, it doesn't exist. Like, you know me, I'm not a big fan of the Halloween Rob Zombie Halloween movies. And I'm not. They exist, and I watch them. So not very often, but I never understood that. And this all started back in the Star Wars days when there's only three Star Wars movies. You know, after all three prequels came out, it's like, come on, shut up. You know, now I say there's only eight Star
Yeah.
Wars movies because sequels can go to hell. Anyway, no, I recognize they exist. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for taking so long with the Phantasm films and my lack of viewing. My job is really burning me. I'm like today or yesterday. I told you. I think I said I was like really burnt out on horror, and I even asked our followers on Facebook, "Do you ever get burnt out on horror?" And some of them were like, "That's blasphemy." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not a 24/7 horror guy because Seth and you and I have talked numerous times about superhero movies in action movies of all kinds. Your number one favorite movie of all time is not a horror movie. It's Die Hard.
Right, exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, my number one favorite movie of all time is not a horror
Well,
movie either.
that's the thing. It's like right, but I mean, you could be a hardcore fan of horror, but also be a hardcore fan of other types of
Yep.
movies. And like, as far as the whole burnout thing, like, I don't I don't really get to that point because like I watch stuff based on my mood. Like, so I'm not the type of person who feels the need to just watch horror all throughout the month of October. If I want to watch a
Yeah.
fucking superhero movie, I do it because I watch horror all year round, right? So like it doesn't matter to me. And like there's times where I'll watch a shitload of horror movies in a row, and then I'm like, you know, I'm like, maybe I need something a little light right now. Maybe something a little bit more optimistic, you know.
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't get quite burnt out, but I mean, lately, I mean, after marathoning through all of Being Human, I've been watching a lot of the DC animated stuff, the Tomorrowverse stuff.
Yeah, I've been the last. I like what you say there. Yeah, I've been watching some MCU stuff, old MCU stuff myself because I needed a little break because I did go hard this year in October, as I always do. I ended up watching three horror films all of November because I keep track. After watching over 60 in October. Yeah, I mean, my favorite movie of all time is The Godfather or Godfather Part Two. I could go either way, but I really enjoy like superhero movies. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Hell, I have a superhero comic that I write for Unparalleled Comics, and Seth's going to be writing one too. So we're big fans of the superhero stuff, and I'm right there with you. I saw a clip before the show of I'm gonna send it to you too, Seth. It's really cool. It's scenes from Batman v Superman, and it lined up almost with the Justice League show from the early, I mean, late 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Which, if you haven't seen it, perfection. I love that show. Although Superman's a little depowered, but it's like, what are you gonna do with a guy like that? But yeah, I mean, and we were gonna try to grow a whole new channel talking about this stuff. You can go to Rage of Razor and check out some of our discussions on the Superman movies, like Defending Superman 4, which is a fool's errand. Wouldn't you say, Seth? uh,
Yeah,
but we talked about a bunch of Superman movies, and we were going to do that. And maybe we still will at some point. I'm not sure what's happening with Discourse. Maybe we'll turn that into, Geek Talk night or something like that. But yeah, check out Rage of Razor. We'd love to build, that a little bit so we can talk more about superhero stuff or Star Wars or fucking Rambo. My son loves Rambo, the original movie, of course, First Blood. I love
First Blood.
Rocky, man. I spent early parts of November watching through all of the Rocky and Creed movies because they're so good. And I am a little burnt out on horror, but you also got to think I am if you follow the Horror Syndicate's Facebook page, and this isn't a knock on anybody else, I'm the one posting everything, so I'm the one who's constantly trying to think what should I post next, so it gets to be a little much.
Yeah,
But also, there's also a page if you're on Facebook, Sean, if you want to check it out. We're going to start doing more stuff on. It's called Retro Outsider, and it's going to be that stuff, geeky stuff. So check it out. Let's see, what do we got? Uh, Mr. Frost. I've never seen that. Titanic is my favorite movie. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. I like it. Love the Three Amigos. Yeah, Steve Martin. Yep, Steve. I just actually showed my daughter uh, the Father of the Bride on Saturday last week, and that's one I've always loved. Sue me. You have another channel? Yeah, we've got Con Air is great. Rage of Razor is probably where we're gonna put that stuff. That's the channel. That's the channel I use to watch almost everything. I don't know if you can see the little logo guy. That's it. And Seth and I have some videos. Let me check real fast. Seth, you got a minute, right? We've got live videos where we talked about James Gunn's DCU, the Man of Steel. We did a whole episode on that. Defending Superman 3. Uh, some of our horror syndicate stuff we got shared on here. Um, yeah, we did a bunch of stuff. I tried streaming every day for I think it was 2021, and I did it for like 12 days, and I was done.
yeah,
Superman Returns. We talked about that one. It says Superman Returns, or does he? Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. I was gonna come up with a show just called Outright Geekery. Who's messaging me? Jay Sloan, this son of a bitch. Actually, Jay Sloan and I did a bunch of the Mandalorian episodes when they were coming out. So please subscribe. I've been stuck on 69 forever. I almost don't want anybody to subscribe to it. Toy Soldiers is a fun film. Yeah, I remember that. They were about a little bit older than me. Do not defend Troll 2. I cannot defend that I've not seen. So, and I have zero uh, plans to ever watch that movie. Seth, have you ever seen Troll 2?
No, but I own the Blu-ray. I found it like at like Walmart one day for like $5. And I was like, you know what?
Yikes.
I've heard of this, and I just haven't had the courage.
Yeah. So check out. Let's see. I think I took the logo off of here. Yeah, check out Rage of Razor. I can drop a link in the chat to if you want to subscribe to it. I'm not trying to get everybody subscribe to all my places because I don't do that generally. But I will put it in the chat real fast here. I guess I should put it on the YouTube one. Considering the two people that are watching are YouTube followers right now. Considering the two people that are watching. There you go. I just did it from the channel. Bam. Okay. Anyway, so anything else on Phantasm, Seth?
No, I mean I'm glad we covered this series. I've been wanting for us to talk about them.
Yeah,
it's a fun series. I wish that there was more of them, but or at least at the very least, I wish Part 5 was a better conclusion. It's always a series that I enjoyed. Yeah, Tim, he just completely like non-existent after Part 3.
Yeah. So a reminder: next Wednesday, we are talking An American Werewolf in London, Seth's favorite horror movie of all time. I gotta be honest, Seth. That might not even be it's probably my third favorite werewolf movie of all time, but I do love it. It's a fun movie. There are a lot of fun moments, a great mix of comedy and horror, great effects, of course. Seth, tell us real quick. Can you sum it up in one sentence why you love An American Werewolf in London?
Because it's an amazing movie.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, like, people talk about the horror and it being a horror comedy, but I think it's much more of a horror movie than people give it credit for. Like, there's comedy in it, and that comes from the characters. But when it does the horror, it takes the horror stuff seriously. And there's terrifying werewolf attacks. Great, we'll talk about it when we get to that on Wednesday.
Great nightmare.
I'm looking forward to that show.
Yeah, we did a show on this on our discourse show, but were you not in that episode?
I was having a really bad day.
Yeah.
And when we were doing it, I wasn't mentally into it, and I think then there was also you showed a clip or something from it.
Oh yeah, that's right. The trailer.
We got and then we got taken down or something like that, and I was just I was not in the and I had a whole bunch of stuff I remember because I was really excited in the days leading up to it, and I had a lot of stuff prepared for what I wanted to talk about, and then when we got on that day to do this show, just a lot of personal stuff came up, and then I was just mentally drained, and then there was so
I do remember that. Well, this will be great.
We're redoing it.
This will be great because then you'll get the gush all over it. Can you defend the remake of Rabbit? I have not seen that yet. I do own it. There's the link to the Rage of Razor channel if y'all are interested. Anybody who watches this interested, check it out. But following after that, Seth, this is going to be your number two werewolf movie, An American Werewolf in Paris. Things are about to get hairy. That'll be on the 13th of December, I do believe. Um,
Yep.
let's see, I'm looking at the 13th. And then coming up on the 20th, we are doing Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions. Great fucking flick. Great flick. Underrated.
Yep.
Underrated.
Yep.
Perhaps I'll write an article.
I agree.
And then we will
Ooh,
end
you should.
2023 with Life Force, Toby Hooper's film about space vampires with beautiful breasts. So that's exciting. I keep forgetting. Have you seen Life Force?
I have not seen Life Force. I own it, but I have not seen it. I remember when we first started Discourse. I think that was the topic we were gonna do. So I bought the Blu-ray, and it just kept getting shifted off of the rotation, and we just never did it. And then
Thanks,
I just never
Nate.
watched it. But
Oh, you've never heard of Lord of Illusions or Life Force? Oh man, I think I'm almost certain Life Force is on Shutter. Lord of Illusions is streaming on HBO Max or Max or whatever the fuck it's called. Let me check real fast. Yeah, Max and Hulu. Clive Barker. It's the last film he ever directed. It's really good. And then Scott Bakula. I was just about to say that. And Scott Bakula stars as Harry D'Amour, which I think in the is it the books he becomes the Hell Priest, or is it the comics? It's one of the two.
and it's in the comics. It's in the I think the second run of the comics. Night Watch or something like that.
Hmm. I have those.
But Harry is in the kind of sequel that Clive wrote, the actual novel, The
Hmm.
Scarlet Gospels. I mean, Harry is a character from, I think he was in several other Clive's works, but The Scarlet Gospels, Harry is the main character of that, but it also deals with the Cenobites and Pinhead and Howl and the magicians, and it's really cool.
Yeah, he's a cool character, and Scott Bakula. Besides not reading him, I think Scott Bakula plays him great because first of all, I like Scott Bakula. But Lord of Illusions was one of those movies for me. Another one I saw kind of late because it came out in '95. I saw it probably in 2016 or 2017, and I was like, "Holy shit! Why have I been sleeping on this one?" Because I rented In the Mouth of Madness, thinking it was Lord of Illusions, or my mom rented it for me, thinking it was Lord of Illusions, and I ended up watching fucking In the Mouth of Madness, which is like one of the fucking best days ever because it's awesome. Um, but yeah, and I swear I saw Lord of Illusions when I was younger, but after seeing it when I was like 36, I was like, oh no, I haven't seen this. This is great. Uh,
I remember being like very curious about Lord of Illusions because I didn't. It's one of those movies that I didn't see until I think 2019 maybe.
yeah.
Um, but I was always curious about it because I remember as a kid in the 90s, you know how remember on the back of comic books they had like the posters for movies, and one of them was I have several comics where like Lord of Illusions poster was the back on the back cover of
Mhm.
several comics.
Yeah, dude, I do too. I still have some. I didn't even think about that. That's great. And Life Force I didn't see till a couple years ago too. And other than the fact that Matilda May has some of the best boobs of all time, it's actually a pretty cool movie with some really good effects for the time. I think it's 1985. So definitely check those out. Anybody who hasn't seen them, Nightbreed. I'm not a fan of Nightbreed. Seth likes Nightbreed, uh, but this is
I
where we leave
fucking
you.
love Nightbreed. I was
I know
obsessed with
you
that
love
movie
Nightbreed.
for
We did,
years.
we did, we did a whole episode on Nightbreed. It's just not my thing, and nothing wrong with that, right? Or is there? Is there something wrong with me?
No, it was. I don't really think we did. I mean, if I remember correctly, when we went to cover Nightbreed, I think I was the only one that was like enthused for it. I think
Yeah.
you and Nate were like, eh. And so like, yeah, that's another one that we should do because I love Nightbreed. I have the director's cut. I have the rare Cabal cut.
Cabal cut.
Yeah.
When the Horror Syndicate started, that was like the thing to get, the Cabal cut. Yeah, and then going into 2024, we're gonna start out with a bigger name franchise, Child's Play, and that's gonna run us through to March. So Child's Play ranking and reviews will be on the 28th, and then starting on March 6th, 2024, we will be doing the Hellraiser franchise. Every single movie. Well,
I'm excited for that one too.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think where are we going to? I'm looking at my. Okay, so we are going to combine some of them. So we're doing 1 through 5 because I know how much you love Inferno. Then Hellseeker and Revelations on April 10th. Then Deader and Hellworld because they were both released in 05, and then Judgment's getting its own episode because I like Judgment, and I think it's better than people say. And then we'll do a full episode on the 2022 film because that movie is great. And then on May 8th, we will rank all Hellraiser movies. How many are there now? 11? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't have anything scheduled after that. So we've got 5 months of content, folks. And if you want to hang out on the Rage of Razor page, get people to subscribe to it. Maybe Seth and I will finish this doing the Superman movies because I don't think we did Superman 2 or Superman the movie. I think we did everything but those two. Is that right?
We have not. We should.
Yeah. Did we do Man of Steel?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did Man of Steel.
And then maybe I'll watch Superman and Lois. Maybe. So, but anyway,
fucking do it.
I know. I got to get into watch Invincible also. All right. American Werewolf in London's next week. We will talk to you all later. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. And we will see you back on Wednesday for sure this time with an American Werewolf in London. If we don't do that show on time, Seth is going to have a fucking coronary right in front of our eyes. Also, if the Bills don't win this week, that'll probably happen before. So, anyway, have a great night.
Well, they're on a.
So they can't lose.
I was just gonna say they're on a bye week, so yeah.
So are the Raiders. They can't lose.
Yeah, and if we miss American Werewolf in London, we're gonna reenact the ending of Goodfellas, where you're gonna be Joe Pesci.
Okay. Why me? Oh, I guess because it'd be me missing. All right. Well,
I could have said casino. I mean, at least I could have said casino, which is more brutal.
Yeah, it's true. If I'll get to you on this. If we don't have a game on Sunday, neither one of us, maybe if I can get caught up, we can do a fun discussion at Rage of Razor on the Tomorrowverse. What do you think about that?
Yes, please do.
Okay, because I got to watch. We'll talk off air. Bye, everybody. Have a nice day.